Well, I was so scared, of course. I had a red suit, which was my kind of go to everything suit. Wouldn't dare to wear that. And I had Dorsey pumps that are cut way down on the sides, high heels. I got much more conservative shoes, like nurses' shoes, ugh, to appear my first day. And they all kept saying, oh, Hamlin, do you know George Hamlin? Are you related to George Hamlin? And I was so sick of hearing it that I finally said, they said, are you George Hamlin? I said, I'm not George Hamlin's anything. And from then on, everybody would say, you know something? She's not George Hamlin's anything. And he was definitely a Gentile. The New England Historical Society kept writing us and asking us which branch of the Hamlin family were we, because there's many English Hamlins and they were hoo-ha. And I kept saying to my husband, someday we'll write it and then they'll get hysterical. I did finally, and they may have stopped writing to me. I told them that the bride's background, Julius and Sarah Borenstein. You know, that do it. So, being at Harvard, I was enormously impressed. Being from New York, Harvard is kind of la-la land, you know, in a way, the way Hollywood is. And I was so impressed, especially since in my family, learning, study was the most important thing, that I was honored to be connected there. And I loved the idea. And I had young men who came in for the auditions for the dance company. We had a dance company of women. And we put it in the Harvard Crimson, and they came. It looked a little strange. But I gave them a tryout from if they didn't get a hernia, they would never, I mean, God Almighty. And I said, okay, now that you've done this, because you're not going to be able to get in here because all these women have many years of training and you are novices. What's it all about? This was the initiation for the Harvard Crimson staff. And they said, you know what? We really liked it. We like to continue. I said, you can't. You have no skills. Well, how do you get skills? Well, you have to take class. Well, will you give us class? Will you give us class? If we came on Tuesday and Thursday in the afternoon, you know, would you give us class? And I said, yes, and they did. And I started, and they were muscular, and they could get things fast. And so creative choreography. I cannot tell you, they were divine. Two of them came when the Thanksgiving came. They said, listen, we're going home for Thanksgiving, and you have to know that we're doing this under assumed names. So if you publish anything about the dance company, we are not using our real names. Because one of them said, my father would kill me. Another one, he would beat me up. Are you kidding? He would take me out of Harvard. So those were the years. That was in the 50s. And being at Harvard, in a way, it has automatic power. Automatic. If you say you are teaching at Harvard and you're bringing the dance company to perform in this veterans hospital, which we did, in like Flynn. And you don't have to explain anything. You don't have to give any prestige. It's there. And it was an experience because I'd never been part of anything like that. We were always the outsiders. And they were very willing. They were very willing within framework. I also taught Yiddish at Harvard 4 years ago. A friend of mine was teaching medieval German, and Yiddish is based on 1,000-year-old German. And she said, come in, I want them to see how similar it is. And I walked in and started talking Yiddish. From wann kommt ihr? Mein Name ist Schendel Bohnstein, and I say weiter. And they could get it, and they're writing notes. Then I wrote it down in Yiddish. That lost them entirely. But I was very moved to teach communication in the courtroom at the Harvard Law School. Nobody had ever taught it before, nobody. It was really a brand new thing. And I taught politics at the Kennedy School of Government, communication in politics. And I had to stop that because Republicans came. I did. I finally quit. I can't help them, I'm sorry. And I taught at the Graduate School of Ed. I taught communication, which was now a concept, a subject, a real skill. And I was proud to bring that in. And then I taught all over the world. I mean, I lectured at Harvard and I lectured at Cambridge, at Oxford. I spoke in Tokyo to 5 different boards of directors on how Americans do business and what is communication in business like, and stuff like that. So it was my goal to fix the world. It was my job, from my childhood. My father hit me once in my whole life. Once. That was because I was arguing with my mother about wanting to borrow her nylon stockings because I was going to a party with boys. And she had loaned me the stockings once, and I thought, holy schmoly, that looks good, because I was wearing cotton stockings. And she wouldn't do it this time for some reason. I was arguing, following her around the house. My father walked over and went, whack. And you know what he said? Auf a solche nichtige Sachen, wegen dem hast du azamin. About such nothing things you fight with your mother? About this? What is the importance? And so on. I mean, that was tradition in the true sense of the word.